Listen closely, my friends. You are not weak. You were just never taught how to be untouchable. Right now, somewhere in your life, something is eating you alive. A person who said the wrong thing. A situation you cannot control. A fear that follows you into every room you enter. And no matter how hard you try, you feel it. That sting, that heaviness, that quiet rage that sits behind your eyes. What if I told you there were men, real men, not mythological figures, who walked through fire, who lost everything, who were enslaved, exiled, and humiliated, and felt none of it move them? Not because they were cold, not because they were broken inside, but because they had mastered something you have never been taught, the complete and total mastery of the self. My name doesn't matter. What matters is what you're about to learn. Because in this video, I'm going to hand you 10 principles, 10 ancient weapons that the greatest minds in human history used to become completely, utterly, psychologically untouchable. This is not motivation. Motivation fades. This is architecture, the architecture of a mind that nothing, and I mean nothing, can penetrate. If you've ever wanted to stop reacting, stop being controlled by other people's opinions, stop lying awake at 3 in the morning replaying conversations, this video is the most important thing you will watch this year. Subscribe right now, not for me, for the version of you that's been waiting to be built. Because the person you are at the end of this video is not the person you are right now. Let's begin. Principle 1. The Fortress of Purpose. Epictetus was a slave. Not metaphorically, literally. His body was owned by another man. His master once twisted his leg to test whether Epictetus would break, to see if the pain would shatter him. Epictetus said calmly, without raising his voice, "You are going to break it." The leg broke. Epictetus looked at his master and said, "Did I not tell you that you would break it?" No rage, no tears, no collapse. How? How does a human being stand in that moment and feel nothing overtake him? Because Epictetus had something no chain could reach, something no man could take from him. He had a purpose that existed entirely inside himself. He wrote, "Seek not that the things which happen should happen as you wish, but wish the things which happen to be as they are, and you will have a tranquil flow of life." Here is what most people misunderstand about purpose. They think purpose is about destination, a job, a title, a house. Epictetus is telling you something far more radical. Purpose is not what you are building toward. Purpose is the standard by which you evaluate every single moment. When you have that, when your purpose is rooted not in outcomes, but in the kind of person you are choosing to be, no result can destroy you. A loss doesn't end you. A betrayal doesn't define you. A failure doesn't finish you. Because none of those things touch the core. Think of the greatest figures in history who held this. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man on earth, wrote his journal not for publication, but for himself, reminding himself daily, "Stay in your purpose. Return to your values. Do not drift." He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Every day you are either drifting or anchoring. Every day the chaos of the world is either pulling you off course or finding no purchase on you at all. The difference is a firm, internal, unbreakable purpose. Not a goal list, not a vision board. A deep, true answer to this question. Who am I? And what will I not betray? No matter what this world throws at me. Find that answer, write it down, return to it every single morning. That is your fortress. And once it is built, nothing gets inside without your permission. Principle 2. The guarded gate. In ancient Rome, every city of importance was built with a gate, and a guard at that gate. Not to keep people in, to control what enters. Your mind is a city, and right now most people are leaving that gate wide open. Every opinion someone throws at you enters. Every piece of news designed to make you anxious enters. Every social media post engineered to trigger comparison, jealousy, or inadequacy enters. And you wonder why you feel like you're under siege. Marcus Aurelius, who governed the most complex empire in human history, while simultaneously fighting wars on multiple fronts, while simultaneously managing a court full of people who wanted him dead, wrote this: "The first rule is to keep an untroubled spirit. The second is to look things in the face and know them for what they are." The Stoics understood something neuroscience is only now catching up to. Your thoughts are not you. They are weather. They pass through. The question is, do you let every storm set up residence, or do you observe it and let it move on? When a thought enters that disturbs your peace, don't fight it. Don't suppress it. Fighting a thought gives it power. Instead, observe it. Name it. This is anxiety. This is anger. This is the need for approval. Then ask, does acting on this thought serve my purpose? Does it align with the person I have chosen to be? If not, you release it, not violently, the way you'd release a bird from your hand. Open the grip, let it go. Seneca wrote, "Omnia lucili aliena sunt, tempus tantum nostrum est." Everything is alien to us, Lucilius. Only time is truly ours. If time is the only thing that's truly yours, then what you allow to occupy that time, what you allow inside your mind in every passing moment, is the most consequential decision you will ever make. Guard the gate, choose what enters, because the mind you maintain is the life you live. Principle 3, the alchemy of criticism. In 65 AD, the Emperor Nero ordered Seneca, his own former tutor, to die. Seneca was told he had hours to live. His friends around him wept. He looked at them and said, almost gently, "Where are your maxims of philosophy? Where is that reason which we have exercised for so many years against impending evils?" He sat down, opened his veins, and spent his final hours dictating philosophy. That is a man who had been so thoroughly criticized, attacked, falsely accused, and politically destroyed, and yet none of it ever reached the essential Seneca. How? Because he had mastered what I call the alchemy of criticism, the ability to transform what people throw at you into something useful. Epictetus taught this directly. He said, "If anyone tells you that a certain person speaks ill of you, do not make excuses about what is said of you, but answer, 'He was ignorant of my other faults, else he would not have mentioned only these.'" Read that again. Sit with it. Epictetus is not being sarcastic. He is being profound. When criticism arrives, instead of defending yourself, use it as an audit. Is there truth here? Mine it. Extract it. Use it to grow. Is there no truth here? Then it is not about you at all. It is about the person delivering it, their fear, their projection, their own unresolved failures wearing your name as a mask. Either way, you win. Either you become better, or you remain completely unmoved. But here is the deeper principle. The reason criticism destroys most people is not the words themselves. It is that most people have no internal standard for self-evaluation. They outsource their self-worth to whoever is speaking loudest about them at any given moment. The Stoic solution is ruthless in its simplicity. Build your own standard. Evaluate yourself against it every day, and then let the rest of the world say whatever it wishes. You are not a democracy. You are not governed by the popular vote of other people's opinions. You are a sovereign. Act like one. Principle 4, the transformation of offense. Someone wrongs you. Someone betrays you. Someone humiliates you publicly or quietly destroys something you built. The pain is real. I am not going to sit here and tell you it isn't. But Marcus Aurelius, a man who was betrayed by generals, mocked by senators, and undermined by people he trusted, wrote something that has survived almost 2,000 years for a reason. He wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This is not a coping mechanism. This is a complete reorientation of reality. The Stoics believed, and they believed this with the force of a philosophical law, that no external event has meaning until your mind assigns it meaning. When someone offends you, they have not done anything to your character, your intelligence, your worth, your future, or your soul. They have done something in the physical world. They have made sounds with their mouth or actions with their body. The offense, the actual wound, only exists if you construct it inside yourself. This is not minimizing what happened. This is recognizing where real power lives. Here is what the Stoic does when offended. Pause. Create space between the stimulus and the response. Even 2 seconds. That space is where your freedom lives. Then ask, what is the most powerful way I can respond to this? Not the most emotionally satisfying, but the most powerful. Epictetus wrote, "Men are disturbed not by the things which happen, but by the opinions about the things." The offense didn't come from them. It came from you meeting their action with a particular interpretation. Change the interpretation, and the offense dissolves. What if this person who wronged you is doing the best they can with what they understand? What if this situation that hurt you is actually redirecting you towards something better? What if the wound is trying to show you something about yourself that needed to be seen? This is not passive. This is the most active, disciplined, courageous work a human being can do, to transform what happens to you into something that serves you. That is the mark of a Stoic. That is the mark of someone nothing can truly touch. Principle 5. Confronting the monsters inside. The philosopher Lucius Annaeus Seneca wrote to his friend Lucilius, "Recede in the ips quantum potes." Retreat into yourself as much as you can, not to hide, to examine. Fear and shame are the 2 most powerful invisible prisons ever constructed. Most people live their entire lives inside them without ever once questioning the walls. Here is the Stoic truth about fear. Fear is not a signal that something is dangerous. Fear is a signal that you have assigned power to something outside yourself. When you're afraid of rejection, you have decided that another person's assessment of you is more important than your own. When you are afraid of failure, you have decided that outcomes matter more than character. When you are afraid of death, which Seneca wrote about extensively, you have decided that the loss of time is worse than the waste of it. Seneca wrote, "Omnia lucili aliena sunt, tempus tantum nostrum est." And he also wrote this, "Cogita quantum temporis absumpserit." Consider how much time has already been consumed. The Stoics practiced something called memento mori, the active contemplation of death. Not morbidly, strategically. When you sit with the reality that this life is finite, that this day will not return, the small humiliations lose their weight. The fear of what someone thinks of you becomes almost absurd against the backdrop of your own mortality. You were going to die anyway. Why spend the time between now and then in a prison built from other people's opinions? And shame. Shame is even more insidious than fear. Because shame tells you that you are the problem, not the action, not the circumstance. You. The Stoic answer to shame is this: you are not your past actions, you are your present choices. Every single moment is a new trial. The jury of Stoic philosophy is never fixed. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." The shame releases when you stop defending who you were and commit completely to who you are becoming, not gradually, now, in this moment. That is the Stoic transformation. That is how you walk out of the prison. Principle 6. Premeditation, the art of expecting the worst. This will sound strange at first, but stay with me. The Stoics practiced something called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Every morning they would deliberately visualize what could go wrong that day, not to live in dread, to make dread irrelevant. Seneca wrote, "Omnia lucili aliena sunt, tempus tantum nostrum est." And he also advised, "Let us prepare our minds as if we had come to the very end of life. Let us postpone nothing." When you have already in your mind experienced the worst outcome, it loses its ability to shock you. When you have already rehearsed loss, actual loss becomes manageable. When you have already felt failure in your imagination, real failure becomes survivable. The modern mind runs from this. We are trained to visualize success, to think positively, to attract good outcomes. And that has produced an entire generation of people who shatter the moment reality doesn't cooperate. The Stoic is the opposite. The Stoic has already been to the bottom of the valley, in his mind, and has already climbed back out. So when life takes him there in reality, he is not panicking. He is walking a familiar path. Marcus Aurelius practiced this every single day as emperor. He faced wars, plagues, the death of his children, betrayal by his most trusted advisers. He had prepared for all of it, not with optimism, with clear-eyed, courageous, rational preparation. He wrote, "Never let the future disturb you. You will meet it, if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present." Practice this tonight. Before you sleep, ask yourself, what could go wrong tomorrow? What is the worst realistic outcome? Then sit with it. Don't flinch. Don't run. Stay in the discomfort until it passes, because a mind that has already walked through fire is a mind that fire cannot burn. Principle 7. The response is everything. Two men face the same storm. One is destroyed, one is forged. What is the difference? Not the storm. The storm is identical. The difference is the response. Epictetus wrote, and this is perhaps the most quoted line in all of Stoic philosophy, and it is quoted that often because nothing has ever replaced it. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. This is not a platitude. This is a description of how reality actually works. Every event in your life is morally neutral until your response gives it meaning and direction. A job loss is not a tragedy. Your response to the job loss is what determines whether it becomes a tragedy or a turning point. A health diagnosis is not a sentence. Your response to that diagnosis is what writes the rest of the story. A broken relationship is not the end. Your response to that ending is what determines who you become next. The Stoics had a word for the discipline of the response, prohairesis, the capacity to make deliberate choices about your inner life. Epictetus said this is the only truly free thing a human being possesses. Everything else, your body, your reputation, your wealth, your relationships, can be taken. But your prohairesis, your power of response, belongs to you completely. Completely. No exceptions. The next time something happens that triggers you, pause. Not for 30 seconds, for 2 seconds. That is all you need. In those 2 seconds, ask, who do I choose to be right now? Not who do I feel like being. Not what does my anger want. Not what would satisfy my ego. Who do I choose to be? That question is the entire practice. Everything else follows from your answer. Principle 8. The dichotomy of control. This is the foundation, the bedrock beneath every other principle. And I have placed it here, not at the beginning, because now you are ready to receive it in its full weight. Epictetus opened his Enchiridion, his handbook, with these words. Some things are in our control and others not. Things in our control are opinion, pursuit, desire, aversion, and, in a word, whatever are our own actions. Things not in our control are body, reputation, command, and, in one word, whatever are not our own actions. Read those 2 categories again. What is in your control? What you think, what you pursue, what you value, how you act. What is not in your control? Everything else, every single thing else. The suffering in most human lives can be traced directly to this one misunderstanding. People spend enormous amounts of energy trying to control things that were never theirs to control. You cannot control whether someone loves you back. You cannot control whether your work is recognized. You cannot control whether the economy crashes or the diagnosis comes or the flight is delayed. You can control your response to all of it, every time, without exception. Marcus Aurelius wrote, You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This realization is not resignation, it is liberation. When you stop trying to control the uncontrollable, you free up every ounce of energy you've been wasting, and you pour that energy into the only arena where you are truly sovereign. Your own mind, your own character, your own choices. The Stoic does not become passive. The Stoic becomes precise. Instead of fighting everything, you direct your force exactly where it matters. This is what makes a Stoic terrifying in the best possible sense. They are not scattered across 1,000 concerns. They are completely focused on the one thing that counts. Decide today what is actually in your control. Pour everything into that. Let everything else pass. That single shift, if you make it real, will change the shape of your life. Principle 9. Living in accordance with nature. This principle confuses people, and I understand why. When the Stoics said live according to nature, they did not mean go sleep in the woods. They meant something far more radical. They meant live in accordance with your nature as a rational, social, purposeful being. Zeno of Citium, the founder of Stoicism, taught that human beings are unique in the natural world because we can reason. We can step back from our instincts and choose a higher response. That capacity, that is our nature. To live against that nature is to live in misery. When you react with pure animal rage, you are living against your nature. When you allow fear to make every decision, you are living against your nature. When you abandon your values for comfort or approval, you are living against your nature. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present, and also do not indulge in dreams of what you do not have." To live in accordance with nature, as the Stoics understood it, is to live fully inside what is real, what is now, what is actually yours to engage with. Not the past which is sealed, not the future which is uncertain. The present moment, this breath, this choice, this response. Seneca wrote to Lucilius, "Dum diffitur vita transcurrit." While we delay, life passes. How much of your life has passed while you were mentally elsewhere, replaying arguments, pre-living future disasters, waiting for the right moment to become the person you know you should be? The Stoic principle here is almost brutal in its clarity. You are not waiting, you are wasting. Every moment you are not living in accordance with your rational, purposeful nature is a moment that is gone forever. Come back, come all the way back, to this moment, to this choice, to this life. That is what it means to live in accordance with nature, and it is harder and more beautiful than anything else I know. Principle 10. The inner citadel. This is where we arrive, the final principle, and it is not a technique, it is a destination. The philosopher Pierre Hadot, who spent his life studying Marcus Aurelius, gave a name to the central achievement of Stoic philosophy. He called it the inner citadel. A citadel is a fortress within a fortress, the last refuge, the place that cannot be taken even when everything outside has fallen. Marcus Aurelius described it this way: "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." This is the ultimate promise of Stoicism, and I want you to hear it clearly. There is a place inside you that cannot be touched, cannot be shaken, cannot be reached by any person, any circumstance, any loss, any failure, any diagnosis, any betrayal. It exists. It has always existed. You just haven't found it yet. Every principle in this video is a step toward that place. Every time you guard your mind, you are building the walls. Every time you choose your response, you are fortifying the gate. Every time you practice premeditatio malorum, you are drilling the soldiers. Every time you release what you cannot control, you are clearing the surrounding terrain of the clutter that makes you vulnerable. And one day, after enough practice, after enough real application of these principles in real moments of real pain, you will find it. That silence at the center of the storm, that stillness that doesn't leave when the chaos arrives, that you that cannot be reduced by anything the world does. Epictetus, the man who was a slave, who had his leg broken, who had nothing, said this: "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." He rejoiced, a slave, a man with a broken leg, a man who owned nothing. He rejoiced because he had found the only thing that cannot be taken. And so can you. Not someday. Through the practice you begin today. The inner citadel is not built in a moment. It is built in moments, exactly like this one. When you choose to pause instead of react. When you choose purpose over approval. When you choose to see clearly instead of feeling blindly. When you choose to be the author of your response. Every single time. Every one of those choices is a brick, and you have been laying them for the last hour. The world will not stop testing you. People will not stop disappointing you. Life will not stop surprising you with things you did not plan for and did not want. But none of that matters anymore. Not in the way it used to. Because now you understand something most people will never understand. The storm is not the problem. Your relationship to the storm is the problem. And that relationship is entirely, completely, 100% within your power to change. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire and wrote in his private journal, never meant to be read by anyone else, these words: "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He realized it. Epictetus realized it as a slave. Seneca realized it in the hours before his death. Now it is your turn. If this video reached something real in you, if even one of these principles landed with weight, share it with someone who needs it. Leave a comment below telling me which principle hit hardest. I read every single one, and if you haven't yet, subscribe, because this is just the beginning of what we're building here together. I'll see you in the next one.